All right. Good morning, everybody. My name is Patrice Henderson. I am the Veteran Services Coordinator for Central Texas College. And what I'm going to be doing this morning is I'm going to be addressing the concerns that students are going to be having for this summer regarding how to register regards to during this situation with the COVID-19 situation regarding this virus and how to get everything started. I know during this crisis, people are wondering, okay, what can we do in order to go ahead and get their benefits started? So, and I know with all of this, there's going to be a lot of questions going on, pretty much what they can do as far as how they can go ahead and get their benefits situated. So, with all this going on, there's probably a whole bunch of questions that's going through their heads, probably such as, how do I register for VA benefits for the first time? How do I register for VA benefits at all? How do I recertify if I've already had VA benefits? How do I get my classes paid for? And, how do I get paid, period? So for instance, you know, how do I get my BAH? And we're going to address all those questions pretty much. And for the most part, we've already done some stuff on our part to help, smooth that transition. One of the things we basically done is we basically increased our staff for the most part. We've added some additional school certifying officials to, for example, to try and help the overflow of students that we have. One, for instance, we added an additional school certifying official, pretty much that deals directly with those who are working on getting their certifications. So, and we also added an additional school certifying official to help with the overflow of students. In addition to that, we also added our own academic advisors. So that way, instead of having students going all the way over to Building 119, who basically deals with academic advising, we actually have our own academic advisor here. That way, students don't have to go all the way over to Building 119. We actually have our own academic advisor here. That way, they don't have to walk all the way over to that other part of the building. We actually have one right here that can actually assist them in whatever they need and specifically train with the policies with veteran services. That way, they know exactly how they can be assisted when it comes to signing up for courses that basically are needed. So that's some of the stuff that we basically already have, done what we can as far as helping students, sign up for courses and help them getting their benefits established. Excuse me. When it comes to registration, what I like to always advise students is that when it comes to registration, you always want to, as soon as registration starts, you always want you always want to make sure you register as early as possible. As soon as registration begins, you want to make sure get on the ball, register as soon as you possibly can. As soon as that the doors open, you want to make sure you have your classes ready, set forth, and available for registration. But always remember, if you have a degree plan or a certification plan, when it comes to veterans benefits, you want to make sure that you sign up for classes that are set forth on your certification plan or on your degree plan. But you always want to make sure that when registration's open, you want to register as soon as possible. The reason being is because we do have a lot of students that we certify. As of what I was just told not too long ago, we are certifying up to 4,500 students. That is a lot of individuals to certify. And we certify in the order that we receive. So that's why I always encourage students that you want to certify as soon as possible, because it's the earlier you certify, the earlier you can get paid. So that's why I always wanted to encourage students. You want to certify as early as possible. So registration starts on April the 6th. Summer one starts on June 1st, and of course, summer two starts on July 6th. Now, we always get questions, can I certify for both terms? Yes, you can. You can certify for summer one and you can certify for summer two. There's no problem with that. We always encourage students to certify for both terms if you need to take classes both terms. So, yes, always, 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 as soon as registration opens, you always want to certify, or excuse me, you always want to register. You always want to register as soon as possible so you can go ahead and get certified as quickly as possible. So, with that said, with the VA benefits, of course, we work with all students who are using VA benefits for chapters 30, which is the Montgomery GI Bill, chapter 31, which is vocational rehabilitation, chapters 33, which is post 9/11 for veterans and for dependents. And then, of course, there's chapter 35, which is dependent educational assistance, chapters 1606 and 1607, of course. And then, of course, and with all of those, even if whether you're coming in as a new student or if you're coming in as recertification, especially with new students, there's always going to be documentation required. So especially when you're registering, and if you're coming in as a new student and you're trying to get your benefits certified for the very first time, yeah, documentation is going to be required. And the question is, what documentation is going to be needed? Well, depending upon what benefit you use, it's all going to be dependent upon which documentation is going to be needed. Now, of course, there's always going to be the standard documentation as what's needed with all benefits. And that standard documentation, of course, is going to be what is called the Veterans Enrollment Certificate. And I'm going to show you what that is and how you can access it. And there's a couple of ways you can access it. You can access it a hard copy, or you can actually access electronically, and you can do it online, and I'll show you how to do both. And of course, you'll need what is called a signed degree plan, which you can obtain from an academic advisor. You'll also need what is called a DD-214 if you're the veteran, if you're required to get it. And you also need what is called a student responsibilities form, and you can get a hard copy as well, where we can actually have that sent to you. Since the campus is closed due to the COVID-19 crisis, we can also send that to you by email. And there's, of course, those are the standard documents. Now, there's also what is called the non-standard documents. In some cases, depending upon your situation coming in as a new student, you may or may not need. For example, if you're a guest student, which in some cases you may be just attending here to take courses because you might be seeking a degree from another institution, you may need what is called a parent institution letter. For example, you're taking courses here to meet degree requirements at another school. And so therefore, you may need a parent letter stating that the courses you're taking here fit what's on a degree plan for another school. So, and you'll need that here to meet that requirement. So you may need that. And then, of course, you might be transferring from another school. And therefore, if you're transferring from another school, or if you're changing degree plans, then you'll need what is called a change in program or place of training. And that document, we can actually give you a hard copy document, or you can actually go ahead and complete that form online at www.va.gov. And then, of course, now, there are some times where a student's GPA could fall below a 2.0, and then there's another document that's required, and it's called a student probation agreement. You can also retrieve that document through e-tree forms, and I'll show you how to actually do that as well. So, now with this COVID-19 situation, unfortunately, the campus has been closed, so students do not have the luxury, unfortunately, of coming in to actually do a lot of what they used to do. So the question becomes is, with that said, how do we communicate to the students of talking to them and getting these documents out to them? Well, a lot of that has been reduced to 3 ways. We've been able to contact students on the phone when we can, but unfortunately, a lot of us have been reduced to working remotely. So even phone calls have been reduced, unfortunately. But however, we've been able to find ways to work around that. Some of us have been taking turns coming into the office. So we have been able to answer some phone calls. But what we also been able to establish is we also been able to establish what is known as web chat. So that way, in addition to answering phone calls, because sometimes we may be in the office, but yet at the same time, we can't always control when students call in and they may be able to reach us, and yet they may not been able to reach us. So unfortunately, what does that do? That ends up leaving the student having to leave a message, and depending upon the next time we're able to come back in, we'll be able to get that message. And depending upon the severity of the call, we may or may not be able to get back to that message in a hurry. So what does that do? We decided, with the help of web chat, the student is able to actually get a hold of somebody more quickly, which I think has been very, very effective. And what that does is a student is able to get in contact with a representative in Veteran Services Department immediately. So we're able to actually chat online with someone and able to address their needs right then and there. And it's turned out to be working most efficiently and effectively. So we're able to communicate to the student online and able to address their needs and whatever questions they might have. And with us also able to work that remotely, we're still able to access colleague and what other programs that we might be able to access, such as VA1's certification, our DocuScan. So we'll be able to look up documents they may have already submitted. So we'll be able to still answer their questions through web chat, which has basically been our primary sources of communication. Excuse me. So we still have email. I consider that now with phone and web chat. Email, I would consider at this point a last alternative of communication. But however, I still recommend email at this point as a primary source of submitting documents in, which is what I do encourage in some cases for students, since they're not able to come on campus. But at this point, they're still able to go ahead and email their documents in, which is what I do encourage at this point. So they're still able to do that. So, but now the question becomes, how do you submit documents in some cases? So particularly with the start of the semester coming in, and with students either wanting to submit their VA benefit documents for the first time, or either they want to go ahead and recertify. How do we actually do that? Well, what I'm going to show you now basically is how does a student actually go ahead and submit what is known as a Veterans Enrollment Certificate. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go to the internet, and we're going to go to student e-forms. I'm going to go ahead and show you how to actually do that. So we're going to go to the www.ctc website. Okay, and just bear with me one moment as I will go ahead and retrieve that. Okay. So where we're going to go now is that as of right now, we're going to go to www.ctc.edu. And when we get to the main website, there's going to be this screen, and then there's going to be these options that you choose from. And we're going to go under Student Tools. Under Student Tools, there's going to be these options, and then you're going to see where it says Student Forms, and you're going to see e-forms. So you're going to click on where it says e-forms. And then under Forms, you'll click on that. And then there's a list that'll come up. You're going to scroll all the way down. Now, this is the one where you can actually go ahead and access the Veterans Enrollment Certificate and submit it electronically. So you're going to scroll all the way to where it says ST Student Veteran Services. You'll just keep scrolling and scrolling, and where it says ST Veteran Services, it says Veterans Enrollment Certificate. And there you see it'll have Veterans Enrollment Certificate, and then what you'll see is you'll see the actual student information. And then you're going to see this message at the top where it says, it is the student's responsibility to notify the VA office of any changes in your schedule, including time and or location, by submitting a new Veterans Enrollment Certificate. So if a student such as you were to go ahead, say for example, if a class were to get canceled, or in this case, if it were, or you decide, or whatever happens, if you decide you don't want to be in that class anymore, or if you change classes because you find out you weren't supposed to be in that class, or whatever situation occurs, you have the responsibility of notifying us, or in other words, you have to submit a new Veterans Enrollment Certificate, and notify us that you have to submit a new Veterans Enrollment Certificate. So don't leave it as is. If your class schedule changes, you have to notify us, because if you leave this as is and your class schedule changes, then you will not be certified correctly, and then therefore it could affect your VA benefits. So as you can see, it's going to have your student information, and then of course it's going to ask for your CTC ID, which is what you're going to submit. It's going to have your name pre-filled in. As you can see, it has my name pre-filled in. It's going to ask for your social security number. Now, where it says VA file number, if you're receiving Chapter 35 benefits, the VA file number is going to be the sponsor social security number. If you're not receiving Chapter 35 benefits, you leave that blank. Only if you're receiving Chapter 35 benefits, you will put in the sponsor's social security number. But that's only if you're receiving Chapter 35 benefits. Otherwise, you will leave that blank. And of course, you're going to be putting in your address, your city, state, and zip code. Of course, if there's an address change, you either put yes or no. You have your phone number, your alternative phone number. Now, where it says email, you do not, I repeat, you do not put in your personal email. You put in your school email address. And why do I say you put in your school email address? Because this is where you will be notified if there's any problems with your Veterans Enrollment Certificate, or if you need to get notified for any additional information. You do not put in your personal email, you put in your school email, because this is how the school's gonna, this is how the school's gonna contact you. This is how Veterans Services is gonna contact you for any additional information. And then of course, you put in your current degree plan. And then here, they're gonna ask you for any additional information. Have you changed your degree plan since your last certification? If you put yes, you do have to complete that document I mentioned earlier, the change in place or training program, which is the what they have it identified as a numerical number, the 221995 or the 225495. The 221995 is if you're independent. The 225495 is if you're dependent. Now, like I said, you can't find this on www.va.gov. If you have a difficult time finding it on the website, you can contact us either by phone or web chat or by email, and we can send you a hard copy for you to fill out. But like I said, if you have changed your degree plan or if you have transferred, yes, you do need to complete that form. If you're attending any other colleges or universities while attending CTC, you either put yes or no. Now, this next question was TAUs. TA stands for tuition assistance. If you use TA, then you put yes. If not, then you put no. This next question, if you are on, or if you are on a consortium agreement during the enrollment period, and CTC is a secondary school, a parent institution letter must be received from your primary school to be certified. Then they ask if you're on active duty, and they ask your VA chapter, they ask your student status, and then they ask for which term would you like to be certified. And of course, you just mark the appropriate responses to those questions. And then of course, where it says 20, then you put down, of course, 2020. And then they ask you to initial by the following statements. And please, I ask every student as they fill this out, make sure before you initial, make sure you understand each one of these statements, because we always get the problem of students not understanding each one of these statements before they initial. I understand that the courses that I am certifying for are part of my current degree plan. That is imperative, because if you list courses that are not on your degree plan, I repeat, they will not be certified, and VA will not pay for them. You have to list courses that are on your degree plan, otherwise VA will not pay for them. So it is imperative that you read each one of these statements before you initial by them. Yes, I will be responsible to the Department of Veteran Affairs for any overpayment. So bottom line is, if we find out that these courses were paid for and they were not part of your degree plan, we have to go back and have these courses terminated by VA, and then VA is going to send you what is called an over indebtedness letter, which means you have to end up paying VA back that money that you were not supposed to get paid for to begin with. The next statement, I understand that I will not be certified for any credit hour PE kinesiology courses if I am a veteran. And basically what that means is unless you're on a kinesiology degree plan, if you're a veteran and you sign up for a 1-hour kinesiology course, VA will not pay for that. So you will be initiating by that as well. And the next statement, I understand that I must at all times have a current signed degree plan on file with Veteran Services Office, and that I must fill out a change of program form at any time my degree plan changes. That's what we had discussed earlier. So anytime your degree plan changes, to make this short and sweet, you have to have a current degree plan on file. And yes, you do have to fill out that 22-1995, that change in program or place of training form. Every time you change your degree plan, you have to fill that out. You have to initial by that as well. I understand that I am responsible to provide transcripts for all prior colleges and universities. You have to initial by that. I understand that VA will not pay for any remedial or developmental course that is taken online. That is correct. VA will not, emphasis, will not pay for any remedial or developmental courses that are taken online. So all of that has to be initial by and understood them and understand all these statements before you initial by. And I always advise students, if they have any questions or not clear or need any clarification on any of these statements prior to initial buy, please, please, please get in contact with our office before you initial buy any of these statements. So that way we can explain this to you in further detail. So that way there's no misunderstanding. And these are the student responsibilities. And you must check mark every single one of these. You cannot just check mark the ones that you don't understand. Even if they do not apply to you, you have to check mark by all of them, because you could end up on a degree plan and policies could change in the future where they could apply to you. So you must read all of these student responsibilities and you must check mark by every single one of them. You know, you're going to provide, where it says the first one, I must provide a copy of my class schedule to Veteran Services Office and complete the Veterans Enrollment Certificate form each time I register for classes, for new classes. So every single term, every single semester that I sign up for classes, yes, for when you add classes, every time you add classes for the new term, you must complete a Veterans Enrollment Certificate. Registering using WebAdvisor, class schedules are available, class schedule link. The VEC may be found, of course, on www.ctcd.edu on the Veterans Benefit page. And we'll go to that on a second. I must have my military service evaluated for credits. If I am a transfer student, I will have my transcripts evaluated by the end of my first semester here at CTC College. If making a change to my course schedule, drops, withdrawals, and course cancellations, I will immediately report this information to Veteran Service Office. If I fail to do so, I may incur additional expenses. That goes in connection with the add and drop form, which I will also go ahead and explain to you, because that goes in connection somewhat to the Veterans Enrollment Certificate. And there is a difference between the two, and there's been some confusion about that. And I will go ahead and also show you how to access that form as well. If changing my degree plan, I will provide a copy of an update degree plan that has been signed by a counselor. That kind of like, it's almost like being a dead horse, but there's been so much confusion about that. So that's why it's been in repetition a lot. But yeah, we just want to make sure that you guys understand that it's very, very important that you provide an updated degree plan. I must complete a VA form, change of place of program, so on and so forth. And like I said, yeah, we can provide a hard copy of that. And of course, yes, you can obtain that form on va.gov. If I'm a guest student of CTC pursuing a degree at another institution, I'm required to request a parent institution letter from my home institution for changes associated with repeating a course for the third time. VA requires a passing grade prior to providing payment. VA will only pay in in-state or out-of-state rate. I will be responsible for remainder of the tuition. For courses to be certified, if what it says here, if I am a veteran, VA will not pay for 1 semester our physical education, kinesiology courses. A lot of this is repetition, but like I said, this is just to make sure that you clearly understand exactly what it is you're going to be getting into. VA will only pay for courses that are only on my official degree plan registered with the VA. VA will only pay for developmental courses if they are taken face-to-face, non-distance learning. I must maintain a cumulative GPA of 2.0 and above during the full utilization of my benefit. If I fall below this requirement, I will be placed on probation. If I fail to make successful progress, my benefits may be suspended by the Associate Dean of Financial Aid Veteran Services. I understand the processing time to certify my enrollment with VA is dependent upon the volume of enrollment pending. Status checks are performed on Fridays. Well, with this COVID-19 situation that's going on, in this case, normally that would be true, but you're more than welcome to always notify us if you want to check the status of your account and what's going on throughout the week. So we don't have a problem with you contacting us as far as the status of what's going on. So we're not just limiting that to Fridays, just to let you know. And it just gives you information on this VEC electronically as far as each of the chapters. And where it says course name here, you list all the courses. Like I said, they do have to be on your degree plan, but they have to be, this is where you will list the courses that you want certified. And the credit hours, comments here is where basically, if there's any comments, this is where the school certifying official would list comments if there's something wrong, particularly with the Veterans Enrollment Certificate that you have submitted. And then the destination, this is what's most important. Once you have completely finished your Veterans Enrollment Certificate, this is where you will actually go ahead and list a place where it's going to be submitted. Now, when you submit it to us, you're going to scroll all the way at the bottom, and it's going to go where you see the last 4 where it says Texas. In accordance to your last name, you are going to submit to either one of those 4 areas. So wherever your last name is, and I'll use myself as an example. Since my last name is Kennerson, I would submit it to Texas G through L. So it would go there. And that's the destination I would submit. It is very, very, very important that you submit it to the correct destination, because if you submit it to the wrong destination, it will go to that destination, and more than likely it could be sitting there for a while, and then no one would ever know where your VEC would be. More than likely, we would have to hunt and peck for it, and of course that would cause a delay in processing. So please be very, very careful in where you select the destination and where your VEC is going. For those who are attending the Fort Hunt campus, all VECs will get directed to the main campus. So make sure you select the correct destination. So depending upon your last name, you always want to select Texas, and whatever the first initial of your last name is, you want to take a look and look at the, select the correct destination. And then once you finish your VEC, then you go ahead and you hit submit, and then
Patrice? Patrice, can you hear me? I cannot hear you. We may have lost Patrice. Are you there, Patrice? Oh, wait. Let's see, Patrice. Are you there, Patrice? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, now I can. We lost you for a minute. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I couldn't hear you anyway. One comment I was gonna make, what if we have anybody here on Facebook that is not in Texas?
Okay. So if we have somebody who's not in Texas, then what we would do is they can go ahead and submit the VEC. But then what would happen is that we have a team called Eagles on Call, and then the VEC would be submitted to them. And we have the team Eagles on Call. They go ahead and they work with those students who are outside the state of Texas.
And if for this e-tree form that you had just showed us, if since there's options for other locations outside of Texas, is that based on where they're located or?
Correct. Yes, ma'am. That's based on where they're located.
All right. That's all the questions I have for now.
Okay. So as of right now, I'm sorry, did you say something?
No.
Okay. So that's basically how you go ahead and complete a VEC online. So what I also wanted to show you at this point is that's how you complete a VEC online. So where we're going to go now is actually how you can obtain a hard copy of the VEC. And we're going to go to we're going to go back to the CTC website. And not only this is how you obtain a VEC hard copy, but this is how you can also obtain a hard copy of the add drop form. And the reason why I'm going to show you both is there's been some confusion as to which one to fill out. So let's go ahead and take a look at that as well. Okay, so here we are back at ctc.edu, and for those who are interested and wanting to obtain a hard copy, let's just say for whatever reason you're having problems trying to complete the electronic version of the VEC. So let's just say you just want to get a hard copy, you just want to fill it out and scan it in. So you'll go to ctc.edu, and then you want to go to the link where it says students. And there are several options as you can see in front of you. And then you want to click on under where it says military, veterans, and spouses. And you're going to go under where it says military veterans. And then you'll see a whole bunch of information. And if you go off to the far left side under veterans, you'll see veterans benefits expo, how to enroll, and then you'll see where it says veterans benefits. You click under that, and then you'll see this information here. See if we can roll up a bit. Okay, so they'll give you information, and then there's this section in blue where it says each semester you must notify the Office of Veteran Services of courses in which you are enrolled. Any drop courses or changes in your schedule. Failing to notify the VA office of these changes could result in an occurrence of death from both the VA and CTC. Each time you register courses, you must complete the CTC Veterans Enrollment Certificate. Now, if you click on that bold in where it says Veterans Enrollment Certificate, where it's bold and underlined, see if I can, there you go. You'll see that this is the actual document that you can download and print off. We've actually made some enhancements to this document because one of the biggest problems we've had with this document in the past is that we've had not been able to get signatures, and it's been very, very difficult for students to read. So we've made some changes to make it more legible and more efficient for the students. For example, at the bottom where you see it says signature, where it's supposed to be, the signature was higher up. So we were missing signatures in the past. So we made it, so we put the signature in the bottom. And also we've made some more options as far as where to mark and, you know, how students are more able to identify themselves as to what chapter they're using. So for example, where to the far right where it says for post 9/11 veteran dependent, there wasn't an option for dependent. And that's important because they weren't able to really identify themselves as veteran dependent, and that makes a big difference. So we've made some changes to this form. So this is a form that they can actually, students can actually download and print off and actually send that in to us. And they can actually scan that in, send that in, scan it, and they can send it in to veterans.services@ctcd.edu. And that is the actual email address that you can send to us as well as correspond with us as well. So that's also an option. Now, this form can be used for when you're adding new courses for any semester. This is the form students need to use for when you're adding courses for the first time for any and all semesters. This is the form you always want to use. Now, to go back, sorry, I went back too far. Okay. Now I say this form. Now, when it comes to dropping courses, now anytime a student wants to drop courses, I always like to speak with a student because the first step a student needs to think about when they drop a course is that number one, is it truly and really necessary to drop a course? And sometimes, in some cases, it is necessary depending upon the situation. But to fast forward, some students do have to drop a course. First step that needs to, of course, take necessary is that they do have to contact registration and they have to take that steps, fulfill those steps there. Once that step is fulfilled there, then yes. And once that class is officially dropped with the registrar's office, then they go ahead, they contact us, they withdraw from the class. Once they withdraw officially from the registrar's office, then yes, they come and see us. Now, they fill out the add drop form with us. And as you can see, these are the actual steps that are in red. Step number 4, there's a VA add and drop form. I'm gonna click on that. This is the actual add and drop form that a student must fulfill out with us. The reason why I want to show you this form is that this form must only be completed when a student drops a course. The students should never use this course to add courses. You only use the add portion when you're adding and dropping a course at the same time. So if a student is adding a course, then it should be a course that's dropping. You're only adding a course when you're dropping. So you're dropping a course, but you're adding a course in place of the drop. So if you're just adding a course, you're going to use the Veterans Enrollment Certificate. You're dropping a course and you're adding a course in its place. But when you're just dropping a course, then yes, this is what you want to use. You only put an add here when you're dropping a course and you're adding a course in its place, if that makes sense. But this has been some confusion as to which form to actually use. So just to make it clear, if you're just adding a course for the first time, you want to use the Veterans Enrollment Certificate. If you're dropping a course and
adding a course in its place, then you want to use the add drop form. So that's the difference between the two. And yes, you can use both hard copies to access, to download, print off, and yes, you can actually scan them and email them both to veterans.services@ctcd.edu. And from there, we can forward it to the correct school certifying official. And then at that point, we'll process it from there. So do we have any questions so far? Because I know that may have sounded a bit confusing.
Yes, we actually happen to have one right now. And it says here, my wife has not received any payments for January to May 2020. What can we do about it?
I'm sorry, say that again now.
My wife has not received any payments for the January to May 2020. I'm guessing that semester. What can we do about it?
Okay. Probably what she would need to do in this case, if she hasn't received any payments from January to May, we do need to check on the status of that. She would probably need to give us a call or get in contact with us because we need to check the status to see what's going on. Because at this point, the semester's pretty much over, so we need to see what's going on there.
Can you show the live help web chat and how that would look for the students?
Let's see. I don't think I can show it here.
Can you click on it at the top?
Chat. I don't know if I can.
Can you click on the picture and see if it comes up?
The web chat? I don't know if I can click on the web chat from here. Let's see. Because I know the web chat is installed on my computer.
Oh, but just what the students would see. If you click on the picture, it doesn't work. Live help.
Where do you see that?
At the left. I see it under vet. Yeah, I mean, if
Oh,
you just...
okay. There we go. Right there.
Okay. So is that what they would need to fill out if they need more
Yes, there we
specific
go. I'm
information?
sorry, plain as day. Okay, yes. This is basically this is what they would fill out. So yes, of course, the student would go ahead and put their first or last name, of course, their ID number, their email address. This is the information on what they would fill out. And of course, on our end, when we receive it, this is how it will show up. It will show up with their first and last name, student ID, email address. And of course, it's going to have their question as they put it. And once they submit it, we receive it on our end, and that's how the web chat's going to start. And then we respond to that question. And then we converse from that moment. Okay. And then what's going to happen at that point is that once they go ahead and put in that information, then it rings up, and then what happens is it's going to go to all of us that are live, and it's just going to be a matter of who receives it.
So this is probably the best option right now if a student...
Right now, I would recommend this option because it's not just the best, it's also the quickest. Because at this point, they'll get a live individual.
Okay. Perfect. And then I have another question. Where is it? Okay, here's the other question I have. When we register for classes, payment is required within 24 hours. There's no option on Eagle Self-Service for GI Bill when registering. Do we need a waiver so we don't get dropped?
It depends on what benefit they're using. So if they're using chapters 31 and 33, they would need sorry, waiver would probably be the wrong word. Now, if they're using Voc Rehab in chapter 33, they would have a voucher that was sent to the business office. But if they're using, like, for example, Montgomery chapter 30, chapters 35, 1606, or 1607, they can actually pay online through Web Advisor. Or
So they
should
just pay
be.
out of pocket? Is that correct?
I'm sorry, say that again.
When you said pay, that means pay out of pocket, like they would use their own bank account?
Right, exactly. They should be able to pay out of pocket.
So it just depends on which version of the system.
That is correct. It depends on which benefit they're using.
Okay. And so let me see here if I have any other questions that have come in. The question that I had, because one of the things that you mentioned is that the VA does not pay for classes that are online if they're developmental. And with what's currently occurring, where all of our summer classes are going to begin at least online, does that mean then that the VA students cannot register for any classes in the summer?
Okay,
Mental?
now that's an interesting question, because that's been one of our frequently asked questions, and that was also one of my questions as well, because that's something we've been contemplating with VA, and we had to get some inquiry about that. Now, here's what's been happening. Now, considering the fact that the classes have been moved to online, this is what has been occurred, because we had to get some clarification. Now, even though these classes are being taught online, the classes inside the schedule that have been noted as face-to-face are going to, if these students that sign up for classes that are, let's put it this way, noted as face-to-face, they are going to be coded and certified as face-to-face, even though they're going to be taught online for the purposes of the student getting their full basic allowance housing, if that makes any sense. So even though these classes are coded in the book and probably stated as face-to-face classes and may be taught online, they're still going to be coded and certified as face room classes for the purpose of the student getting their full basic military housing. So even though, now, I don't know, I haven't taken a look at all the developmental courses to see if some of them are going to be taught online. Now, if there are some developmental classes that are going to be considered online, then no, those classes that are going to be strictly online will not get paid by VA, but the ones that are going to be considered face room courses and coded as face room courses, they're still going to be certified as face room courses, even though they're going to be taught online, and they're going to be coded and certified as face room courses for the purpose of the student receiving the full basic military housing.
And I just want to clarify, because I know you were in the WebEx yesterday, we were watching it together. For those that don't realize it, if any math class that we're offering in the summer says that they're going to be face-to-face, the teacher will actually be doing instruction through Blackboard, and you will be able to interact live with the instructor. So that, I think, is why in our case it would make a difference. Am I correct?
That is correct, yes.
I have somebody that was not able to see how you got to the chat. Would you mind going over through that again, please?
Yeah, okay, sure. Okay, so I'll go back even further. Okay, so we're back at the beginning of the website. So say for instance, if there's someone that needs to get to the chat, we'll go back to www.ctc.edu. So we're back at the beginning of the website. So to get to the chat, you'll go to students. And then they have all these options. You go to military, veterans, and spouses. You'll click on military veterans. And go off to the far left where it says live help. Big old blue rectangle square off to the left side. And they have this information off to the left side where it's asked for first name, last name, and of course you have to have your CTC ID, your email address, of course your phone number. And then it says, please describe your issue. And this is where you're going to have your question. And you want to be specific and detailed as possible. So you want to put as much information in there. So that way we'll be able to assist you. And then you'll hit submit. And then what's going to happen is once you do that, then what's going to happen on our end is when we get that, then it's going to pop in. And the way we see it as, it's going to show up is, are you ready to receive the next student? One of us is going to hit yes. So to whoever's available, if all of us is available, so it's going to be a matter of who's going to be ready to catch the next student. So whoever gets it, they're going to catch it. And then we see that information. And then we're going to be able to answer that next inquiry that comes in. And then from there, we'll have all that information and we'll be able to assist you. And then we'll be like, good morning, good afternoon. We look at your inquiry and we'll be like, how are we able to assist you? And then we'll go from there. And that's the steps on how we get to it. And this is what you do to actually go ahead and get to web chat.
I have a few individuals that still have some questions about how the VA classes actually get paid off. Is there something that they can look at in the website and actually maybe visualize, if you are using this chapter or book rehab or something along those lines, this is how things will flow. These are the ones that you have to pay for out of pocket, or these are the ones that you have to that we're going to send a voucher to directly to the business office. Is there anything online that explains that, or is that something that maybe we can?
Well, I can tell you right now, the ones that require the ones that require to pay out of pocket, chapters 30, 35, 1606, and 1607 are the ones that students are going to have to pay out of pocket for. That's Montgomery GI Bill and Dependents Educational Assistance.
Chapters 35, and then what was the other one?
I'm sorry, 1606 and 1607. Those are the ones that students are going to have to pay out of pocket for.
Okay.
And yeah, they have to pay out of pocket first before VA. I don't like using the word reimbursement, because what really happens is they just pay housing on that. And then chapters 31 and 33. Those are the ones that VA will pay for upfront. So they won't actually have to pay out of pocket.
And then, and voc rehab?
Yeah, voc rehab is 31.
Okay. So I am going to type this in because I have some questions. Okay. Great. Let me see then here if I have any others that I have missed. How do the students know which chapter they're using?
Okay. Well, what the students, okay. When they apply for benefits, the students will receive what is called a certificate of eligibility. They will receive that from the Department of Veteran Affairs when they apply for benefits.
And that's how they'll know.
And that's how they'll know.
I have somebody asking about chapter 38.
Okay. We do not process chapter 38.
So that cannot be used for paying
Right.
classes, period, at Central Texas College.
That is correct. Yes.
Okay, that's good to know. All right, we've been having some really great questions, actually. Let me see if I haven't missed any. I see. I think those are all the questions. Let me go back to the bottom. I'm not sure I'm not missing anything, but we have had a lot of really awesome questions. So I think that's it for now. This is great. I think it's been extremely helpful for everybody to be able to have the opportunity. Thank you for showing the chat option, because that's, since there's multiple people answering that, that's definitely probably the best way to do this at this point. We want to have students be able to get the answers that they need, and that seems to be the best, especially if they are not sure like what's happened with their money or where they're at in the process. That's probably the best way. And I think if you guys can't remember anything, that's probably what I would remember the most. Make sure that if you have a question, ask in the chat. That's the best way possible.
Oh no, there's also one more thing. A couple more things I wanted to add in. We've also been getting fall inquiries about should students start worrying about the fall, and it's just like I stated in the very beginning. It's always good to be prepared ahead of time. Even though that fall registration has been delayed until June 1st, that does not mean that you should not get ready. You always want to get ready, because if you take a look at today's date is May 13th. So June 1st is only 2 weeks away. So my advice to you is get ready, because fall is the biggest semester and the rush usually starts coming in at that moment. So my advice is start getting your paperwork together, start getting, if you're new coming in for the first time, then yeah, I would strongly recommend that you start applying for VA benefits at this moment, because that is usually our heaviest load. So yeah, I would really recommend to start getting ready, start getting all your paperwork ready, start getting everything ready, start, because when the registration doors open for fall, that's when you really want to get in. You want to get in as soon as it's available, because that's pretty much our Black Friday, as you want to put it that way. So, because you never want to be too ready. It's never too soon at that moment. So yeah. And the other thing I wanted to mention is like I said, in the beginning, we also have a lot of students, because it's not just this main campus here. We got pretty much the entire world. We got campuses all over the planet. So we process a lot of people. So processing is long. We try not to make it too long. So that's why I always tell people you want to prepare ahead of time, because we want to try and get everybody as soon as possible. So we ask students to be very patient and check on your status regularly. And if you feel that if it's not been processed, give us a call. Give us a call.
Check.
Yes, check. We want to get you processed. We want to help you get your benefits. That's what we're here for. You know, we want to get you paid. We want to keep you enrolled. That's what we're here for. Bottom line, I mean, we're the reason, you guys are the reason why we have a job. So bottom line is, give us a call if you think something is wrong. That's why we're here. So that's what it's about.
I do have a few questions that have come in since, and I think they're really good. And I have one that says, what is full-time considered for the summer? How many credits, I imagine?
My understanding is it's because summer is a condensed time frame. My understanding is it also depends on the length of classes, but because summer is short, it's 6 credit hours, I believe.
Yeah. And then The person that was asking about the chapter 38 says, so dual enrollment with Texas A&M, I can't use chapter 38 at CTC?
Not a CTC.
So they could probably use it in their A&M classes, just not with the CTC classes.
Well, I can't speak for Texas A&M. I can just speak for Central Texas College.
So let's see. See if anybody else came out. I think that was it. But we had some, that was a good one too for the summer, because I know a lot of people, and I believe 6 is the correct answer as well. Thank you so much to everybody that has brought in questions. This has been really, really good. There have been some amazing questions. Thank you, Patrice, for helping us be able to kind of navigate this. I know it can be kind of confusing, but it's really great that at least we have some options now, and hopefully anybody interested or needing to talk to VA, they'll be able to do that now that they know how to do it, and maybe already some of their basic questions have been answered, so then they can go on to that next step. Thank you. We are very glad that everybody tuned in, and we'll be continuing to have our CTC lives. Keep on the lookout. We'll have more coming up. We're trying to communicate with all of you, so please stay tuned if you have questions, or if there's a specific department that you're interested in us spotlighting, please send us a direct message, send it to our DMs. We'll actually look at that and try to consider and try to fit it into our schedule so that we give that opportunity to the students. Thank you for everything. Thank you, Patrice, and we'll see you all soon. Okay?